The drag show for kids has come. I'm going to groom the kids. Yes, you can change your gender. No, you're stealing our identity. We are biological women, not cis women, and you cannot change your gender. A boycott. Conservatives. What is the actual problem with transgenderism? Hello everyone and welcome once again. So today we are going to talk about this movement which is like really a matter of debate. Let's go. Transgenderism basically means to change your own sex.
ये लड़की संजय बांगर की बेटी नहीं बल्कि 1 साल पहले बेटा थी और जब ये बेटा थी तब इनका नाम था आर्यन बांगर और इन्होंने अपने बचपन में काफी ज्यादा क्रिकेट खेला था। लेकिन भैया इसे बचपन से ये चीज महसूस होती थी कि एक लड़का नहीं बल्कि एक लड़की है। इसी के चलते इन्होंने पिछले साल HRT नाम की एक थेरेपी कराई थी और अपना जेंडर ट्रांसफर कर लिया था। वेल आपको बताता चलूं कि जब से मोहतरमा 23 साल की उम्र में अनाया बांगर बनी है तब से इनका क्रिकेट करियर ऑलमोस्ट एंड हो चुका है।
Christine Jorgensen was the first trans woman who did it in 1926.
And it has sparked a debate since the last 20 to 30 years, as it started in the early 1990s only in America, and also like that time only a few people would get transed. Now a lot of people including children are being transed, and we are going to specifically focus on this transing children issue. So yes, the world, it is being more accepting of LGBTQ individuals, gay, lesbian, trans, asexual, intersex, and like I agree that up to some extent it is good, but also it has caused a lot of problems. Firstly, due to the normalization of homosexuality and gay marriage, the definition of marriage is being blurred.
Marriage between one man and one woman is promoted throughout scripture and also in many societies. Marriage is the foundation of society. If you will substitute husbands and wives, then you will substitute your gender also in the meantime.
We are being forced to believe, and I agree that yes, a person should have the choice, but I personally think that ideally we should not normalize this. Like only among a few people it's okay, but if everybody is going to turn gay, then the society will definitely collapse, because homosexuality is unnatural and also like it's risky. You can check out episode 26 for that. Just the way there are benefits, there are also harms which this LGBTQ movement caused, and also the transgenderism thing we are going to focus now. So what, like I believe that yes, there should be trans representation. Like the people should not be discriminated against, they should not face hate and bullying.
We should not call people unnecessarily gay because they do certain actions which are of the opposite gender or untraditional.
This idea of changing gender comes through the idea of gender symphoria. Gender symphoria basically means that you dislike your own gender, you are not comfortable with being content in your own gender, and also this is actually a really big problem.
Self-hate, past abuses, stigma, hormonal issues are the causes. The rate of trans surgeries, especially among men, is increasing exponentially.
I myself struggled with it. I used to crush on male actors, and yes, I used to feel that I should be a boy. I decided to act like a boy. I thought I was a boy, but later I realized that yes, I cannot be a boy. Transgenderism is practically wrong, not only physically and mentally, but also spiritually. Spiritually, we know that in Genesis chapter 1 verse 27, God has clearly told that we are created male or female. That is, there are only two genders. Now, there are a selected few people, 1 out of 100, who have chromosomal abnormalities like triple X chromosome or no Y chromosome or a single X chromosome only. So these people have sterility, and also like there are intersex people who have defective genitalia, and being intersex is not sinful.
We must not ostracize them or even trans people and treat them as humans.
We need to make a clear distinction between what is intersex and what is transgender. Because of the conflation of the two, also there are being many problems, and we should like yes, the intersex people have an abnormality of a particular gender, so they also identify to a particular gender though they have defective organs. And also we can see that we are created in the image of God, and transgenderism is practically defeating the cause of glorifying God. Also we can see mentally a lot of these people, like there is a very 40 to 50% chance of transgender people having some sort of mental health issues, and of course because of that issue only they have changed their gender. We need to stop normalizing the idea that gender dysphoria is normal. It is a huge problem, especially nowadays, when anybody, even a small child as young as a 2 year, trans into another gender. And yes, gender dysphoria is really happening in our society, which is really wrong. We basically cannot change our gender. That is practically nearly impossible, because you are like 99.5% of us are born either with two X chromosomes, that is a girl, or one X and one Y chromosome, that is a man. So yes, you cannot, like in every cell it is there, the sex chromosomes, and you cannot just replace it by some random hormones. Also the hormones are really risky. Like once there was a friend of my grandmother, the neighbor, and his mother or wife, due to a hormonal issue, she was fed with the hormones of the same sex, that is female hormones like estrogen, and because of a complication she died. 1 in 10 do have these kind of complications. If same sex hormones can cause so much harm, then how much cross sex hormones will cause the harm? That's really delusional, and affirming that is really wrong and stupid. I am not against inclusivity, but if this is going to cause wrong things, if you are going to affirm delusions, then I'm not going to support it. I of course support the person, but I don't support his or her delusions. Just the way he or she does not have to support my wrongdoings. A boy is a boy, a girl is a girl. You cannot change that. Period. Now, firstly, we will talk about the transing of young children. Megan Fox's sons, and also Dylan Mulvaney, and also Elon Musk's son Xavier transitioned into a girl. They are like about ages 10 to 12, and this is really wrong. And also there was a girl named Chloe Coley. She got a vasectomy at the age of 13. At the age of 13 only she started like having these thoughts that I can turn into a boy. At the age of 15 and 15 to 16, she was like really living in the delusion of being a trans boy. And at the age of 19 or 20, she detransitioned, and that is a really powerful story. I heard it and it is really painful. She cannot like breastfeed, and she has a lot of health complications.
This guy really struggled a lot to protect his son from transing into a girl. Finally, he won.
Your son's mother is insisting that your 3-year-old son is non-binary without your consent. What you are living through is a horror story. When you saw your toddler son in a dress and makeup, what went through your mind?
I felt sick to my stomach. I had to save him from that.
Trying to communicate with this 3-year-old over the gender stuff, he actually bit her.
When mommy took me to Disneyland, I couldn't go on the rides unless I wore my princess shoes. And I didn't want to wear princess shoes. I wanted to wear boy shoes. He's the most masculine of all his friends. It's so sad that anyone would want to take that from him.
I think this is really wrong. Especially on children, these things should not be forced, because children have a developing body. Also, historically, we can see during the Nazi regime, a lot of poor Jewish children had similar procedures of transing. Like they used to chop off their body parts and do lots of wrong things. And even I think that ideally for adults also it should not be there. But we don't live in an ideal world. And yes, this is wrong. Also, like we also assume children's bodies are meant to play, not for changing the surgeries or turning them into a political weapon. And also we can see that just because a guy, like now this is normal, just because a guy likes to wear pink dresses, makeup, Barbie, and he is automatically called a girl. Like if both conservatives and progressives say that yes, you have to transition into a girl, conservatives say that you are not a real man. And same goes for women. If a woman likes blue, Hot Wheels, cargo pants, adventures, etc., then she is told that you should change, and this is wrong.
There is also a double standard among conservatives that being a tomboy is fine, but a guy liking certain feminine things is automatically gay, which is extremely wrong.
You cannot change your gender. You can enjoy these things. You can be a tom girl or a tomboy without having to do these irreversible procedures. And also regarding androgyny, I think it has to be blamed. Of course, there are going to be exceptions. Of course, there are going to be certain traits about of almost every human being that are of the opposite gender. But there is a limit. And also we should understand that some things are meant for women, some things are meant for men. Now, I'm not saying that makeup should not be worn by men, or pink should not be worn by boys, or girls should not do adventures. They should do, but they should not like completely look like the opposite gender. That means we should be able to recognize that he or she belongs to their original gender. Now, if a person wants to be like do things of the opposite gender through his will, it's not the problem. And of course, if there are going to be exceptions, a small amount of feminine men or masculine women, then it's not a problem. If you're deliberately going to force it upon everyone, that's wrong. There are many organizations, even members of the LGBTQ community, like Gays Against Groomers. Blair White, who is a trans woman, is like against this ideology.
Transitioning is just 1% of people who transition. What do you say to that?
I'd say it probably used to be. When I started my transition, I actually looked into this. I said, are there people that regret this? It was very difficult to find any stories. Now you have thousands of kids. And of course, only a tiny fraction of people who really go through that are going to want to put their story out. So you can only assume it's like 10 times that. Because unfortunately, we have a crisis in this country with mental health professionals that would rather quickly, sign a thing and get you on pills, even though it may not be your problem. For me, I also experienced that. I experienced walking into a doctor's office and they gave me a prescription for estrogen and sort of a roadmap for future surgeries within 30 minutes max.
And also, regarding the use of personal pronouns, this is the second problem. I personally think that we should not affirm someone by telling them their fake pronouns. We should not lie. A Blair White is he, even though like he pumps on all those hormones. He is a very, very feminized man. Or a trans woman is a very, very masculinized male by pumping artificial hormones. That's it. So yes, I love and respect the transgenders, but I don't affirm that illusion. Now the second problem, men in women's space. Less than 10 episodes left for the 100th episode. So here's a new update. The 100th episode will be around 30th June to 7th of July. Also, there are two special announcements. Firstly, there is going to be a special merch of Call to Cultivate, and secondly, it is going to be a surprise. For the 99th episode, I'm going to have a special Q&A session. So yes, do ask me anything in the comment section or anywhere. Now, Dylan Mulvaney recently became viral, and like he is like having number of days of his girlhood journey, which I think is wrong.
Day 75 of being a girl, and I've been carrying around tampons and pads for the past 2 months, but I've actually
A
never
lot
opened
of
one
such
up, so
people
let's
are
do it.
pedos.
Because like you are not a girl, and also like you're not living your life, minding your own business, enjoying. Okay, fine, but you're mocking other women, you're deliberately insulting them, you're being desperate.
Ring the alarms immediately, we have a code pink emergency. Calling women of all ages, girls like me. Gotta learn the basics, last little quick change, sip champagne. Playing catch up cause we missed the pregame. Pull up the group chat where you had dropped a pin. We're doing hot girl shit, get in. Monday can't get out of bed, Tuesday morning kick a mess. Wednesday retail therapy, cash or credit, I say yes. Thursday had a walk of shame, didn't even know his name. These are the days of girlhood, every day, every night.
Also, we can see in many ads like Maybelline and all, men in women face is being promoted. I'm not saying that men should not be promoting makeup or skincare. It has itself no gender. But portraying a man as a woman instead of a feminine man is wrong. Complete erasure of gender lines is actually problematic. And yes, we cannot ban that, but we should at least not be delusional and guide others. And personally speaking, excess makeup like this drag queen type makeup on man is not attractive. And I think that is kind of wrong. A small K-pop idol type makeup is fine, cultural makeup is fine. Now, masculinity and femininity is dependent on culture in many cases. But makeup and clothes are just the surface. The bigger picture is about men and women's sports in lockers in their rooms. Recently, like 4 years back, Riley Gaines swam with a trans woman named Leah Thomas, and she really felt uncomfortable around him, which is obvious. And then she spoke against this, men in women's spaces.
Swimming where you can look up past times, and I'm looking up Leah Thomas and nothing pops up until that season. Never once occurred to me this was a male, until an article came out disclosing very briefly in a blip of a sentence, as if we were really supposed
I
to just
really
read
feel
right over
bad
it.
for her and
Leah
other
Thomas is
women.
formerly Will Thomas and swam 3 years on the men's team at University of Pennsylvania before deciding to switch to the women's team. I carried on with the article. And I read this, and I was shocked. I was so shocked. But I really felt relieved, because I looked up who Will Thomas was. And I saw that this was a mediocre male swimmer, at best, ranking 462nd in the nation among the men. I saw absolutely nothing wrong with allowing Leah Thomas to compete with the women. And so I got to personally witness and feel the effect that this infringement, this injustice had on myself and my teammates and my competitors.
And also we can see how a lot of trans women are defeating biological women in sports. Obviously, in 95% of the chances, the man will defeat the woman because he is physically stronger than her. Because men can't have testosterone, which is known for its aggression, its strength, whereas estrogen is for its nurturing nature. And also its basic common sense, which we are denying. Like, we have the proofs that there are two genders only, not 73 genders. But because of our temporary feelings, we are affirming what is lies. And this is a type of toxic empathy, to look at only one side and support feelings and rely on them rather than the truth. What these people are doing in the name of inclusivity, diversity is wrong. She is being famous among the right-wing media. She has suffered a lot, and a lot of other women are suffering. Like, they are being raped in lockers, in prisons, and this is wrong. A man should not be allowed just because he fits into his religions. And not only properly trans women who actually have to go through a 12-month cycle of hormones so that they could be feminized so much to be a woman. Also, men who claim who are gender fluid, like sometimes they get switched to a girl, another time they'll switch to a boy, sometimes they'll be a potato, sometimes they will be a dog, and this is also wrong. That, like, people are thinking now they are animals, and this is wrong. Because a guy wears a dress, he comes like a proper man who even hasn't done surgeries, and this is wrong. Like, the feminists who claim for women's rights, this is actually really, really anti-feminist, and it's hypocritical of the woke agenda. You're actually supporting women or not, I don't know.
This is a beautiful uterus. Beautiful. Fallopian tubes and ovaries. Why? Because everybody has a beautiful uterus, and it's mine, it's yours, it's hers. Nobody's going to tell me what to do with it.
You know, a lot of conservatives say trans women aren't women. What do you have to say to that?
You know, if you choose to be a woman and you feel you're a woman, then you're a woman.
You don't need to define it.
No, you don't need a uterus.
There is involvement of feminism here. Recently, people are being against men in women's sports is correct. Men
Trump has banned men in women's sports.
should have men's sports, or even trans people could have their own spaces. That's fine. So yes, in conclusion, I support transgender people. We should talk about these things. We should guide them correctly. We should support them. We should not bully them. But we should not support their delusions.
Men are becoming pregnant artificially. Men don't get pregnant.
Woke LGBTQ curriculum happening in schools and colleges.
Pop culture media is being fed. A drag queen wearing a demon dress is teaching to children and hanging out with them.
Now, I'm not against talking about LGBTQ issues, but they should not be separate subjects. Talking about once or twice is not the problem. And also, affirming delusions is wrong. Now, of course, every time, educational institutions cannot adhere to conservative values, but at least they should have certain amount of common sense. Yes, we should teach that we should respect them and be friends with them, but we should also tell them to accept the reality. And also, there is sexually explicit books for children as young as 5 years, and this is wrong. This should be taught, sex education should be taught after 12 years of age, because after that only the child reaches a particular amount of maturity. And this child porn is actually very, very wrong. We expected in 2025 that there will be supercars, super AI, but now we have to question basic biology. What is a woman? Mad Walsh is a really great documentary. So thank you guys for listening to this episode. Do share your thoughts on this transgender thing. I've also talked about homosexuality, so yes, do check it out. Love the person, not the sin. Bye. My gender is not a costume. It's a very, very important part of who I am. I am an image of God.